excited to be here with a very close friend, mentor of mine, George Sykiotis of Lupino and Lucy Liu. It was George's idea and inspiration that got me to do this. It's my ultimate privilege to be able to interview you.
Zolman, thank you. Very, very kind. I think a lot of the kudos should go to you because it was just an idea that we actually were talking about passing, because I think there are so many people out there that actually want to know what's happening out there. And being quarantined, this is a great opportunity to tell different stories about different people and give people a real perspective of what's happening. And I've got to say, you've done really well getting some amazing people out there. And I think you should really be proud.
With you especially.
Oh, thank you.
I never thought I'd get this high.
So I think the people who have actually doing these interviews for you, you should actually be really proud of. These are the guys who've taken time out of their life and must think there is some value in what you do to be able to sit here and talk to you.
It's not me, it's the viewers. It's the viewers that they want to talk to. And I've been lucky enough to interview some very passionate people that really know a lot about their industry and want to get that message out. We've just been lucky to broadcast it, but it's been great. Today, George is going to share with us what is wrong with the hospitality industry, what needs to be repaired with the hospitality industry, and how to bring professionalism and profitability back into this industry so more people like George Sykiotis and his partners can continue to expand and make Melbourne the great city it is, with the best hospitality in the world. George, COVID-19 starts, restrictions come into place. You run 2 restaurants, Lucy Liu and Lupino, which we're in now. What the hell? What do you do?
Good indication is we actually adapt. So I'll give an example. You can hear some noise out the back. There's a group of guys. These guys are great customers of ours. So what we do is they need a table for lunch. And usually what most of them do is they actually extend it through to dinner. So they end up having 2 sittings and they enjoy their lunch and dinner right through. So what's the message behind of it? We need to adapt. We try to make the best of the circumstances. We try and sort of give people and our better customers the option of dining with us. What we did is, once we knew we were reopening after the COVID-19, what we did is we sat down and actually rang 1,000 best customers, and we gave them the opportunity of actually dining. And what that did is, that booked us basically for the first 8 weeks. Wow. So at the moment, we're almost at capacity across both Lucy Liu and Lupino, and look, with a bit of luck, that'll put us in a good position to actually go forward. It was like quite a bit, let's say it was built up demand. So people came out and they spent. The people who wanted to do, like I said, our good customers come in, they've got preference, and they would probably spend 50% more than what they normally would. They tipped, they were very appreciative of being offered the first seats, and look, and they, it's just like anyone who's been clogged up after a while, and they came out and they loved it. And we've seen the demand sort of follow through to quite a degree as well. So the spends have sort of dropped off a little bit, but the first week has been fantastic.
During the COVID period, you shut down both Lucy Liu and Lupino, and you chose not to do home deliveries?
No, we didn't. We we made a conscious decision to actually give ourselves a number one is sort of try and concentrate on what we do best, which is serving food in restaurants. And we're not takeaway food venues. We don't do takeaway well. Pasta, say in Lupino, it doesn't travel very well. We've got a small venue here. We thought we would best to shut the doors, and hopefully, we'd reopen in a better position. And the same for Lucy Liu. What we did at Lucy is we actually took the opportunity of trying to fix things that were broken. So, for example, we retiled the kitchen, we repainted, we had all our staff in there, revigorating the venue. And I think also what it did for us, it gave everyone a break from our venues, but also it built up that demand. So when people come back, they were looking forward and eager to come back. What's happened in our industry over the last probably 10 years, fine dining, which was actually a higher per spend per person, and also at the same time, probably a higher percentage in terms of profitability. That's changed because what we've done is, as a group of restaurateurs, there was so much more demand available. So what's happened is we've dropped our prices, made bigger venues, had more bums on seat, as I say, in our industry. And what we've done is we've chased turnover. But at the expense of profitability, higher turnover means smaller margins. So the average in our current industry model is basically between 3 and 9%. If you're doing above that, you're one of the best operators.
3 and 9% of what?
Of turnover.
Goes to rent?
No, goes to your bottom line. That's the average margin. No, so back in 1993, when I started my first venue, we were basically looking at doing 25%. So if you made $10,000 a week, you probably end up with $2,500 a week profit. These days, you're actually looking at 3 to 9%. So if you work out the numbers, the opportunity to actually muck up is very, very small.
Would you open more restaurants in this market?
In this market, no, no.
You're well traveled. How does Melbourne compare to the rest of the world when it comes to hospitality?
We do things really well in Melbourne. I think we've developed a global identity. Let's say in Australia, we are probably the most preeminent city in Australia by far. Sydney looks towards us. We sort of look at Sydney in a different light. But I think the quality of food that we give is exceptional. The service that we do is very well, and there's a great culture around food. If you look at, let's say, use a commodity like coffee, you can walk out of your local, most of us can walk out of our homes and walk down the street and get an exceptional coffee. Anywhere in this world, I think you'd find it quite difficult. We were at the forefront of coffee around the world, so I spend quite a bit of time in Europe. So, for example, a city like Prague, which I visit quite a lot, they're probably 10 years behind Melbourne in terms of the coffee scene, but they're gaining momentum exponentially, and they are developing all these like beautiful holes in the walls where you can get great coffee. So we were doing this 10 years ago. So where we go to next is the next quantum step, particularly given the current environment.
So where is the opportunity in the next 12 months in the hospitality industry?
I think what will happen is that there will be a rationalization in the industry. There'll be certain players who don't have the financial acumen or the financial support to be able to actually sustain the change environment, which means going from 20 people to 50 to 100. A lot of people don't have the financial, number one, backing. They don't have the systems and processes to be able to deal with this. So let's for example, we've just come out of the hospitality industry has had a number of storms. We've just been through some cataclysmic times, let's say. We've had a huge industrial relations nightmare with Fair Work. I was involved with Made Establishment. They were caught in the forefront, particularly George was as well. That sort of, I think he was actually used predominantly as the pin-up boy in the wrong way. And what's happened now is the venues have closed. They'll reopen as another model, and it'll take something away from the market. Made Establishment created a preeminence in the Greek cuisine that had never been seen before, and now that's actually gone, which is going to be quite sad, and that won't be actually. I don't think that'll actually come back for a very long time. So, going back to your question, what does the future hold for us? It's going to come down to professionalism. This period has made landlords probably think twice about their tenants. So whether it's my perspective from a landlord or a tenant's perspective, I think right where we are now, there needs to be a lot more communication between the two parties. And the old adage, once upon a time, was when you would go to sign a lease, there would be, we're in partnership together. And the partnership would end once you signed the lease because it was your problem. I think landlords now are beginning to realise that if a tenancy goes broke, re-leasing that means more incentives. It means stigma.
We're not cheap, agents.
Mate, you guys are, there's an opportunity out there. You know what? And the whole scenario at the moment is that good tenants are far and few between. Like we said earlier, financial acumen, ones that have actually done it before, ones that have actually got the resources to pull it together, to pull not only financial, but also the staff. When you come to a restaurant, 40% of the cost of staff. Why? Because it is also the most significant factor in our business. It's a people's game. And if you're not good at what you're doing, you can't make people love your brand, love your food, they ain't coming back. Simple as that.
How many staff do you have between the two restaurants?
Before we closed down, before the COVID year, we had 55 staff at Lucy Lou and 22 here. So we had a team of 77.
And how did you maintain culture? Because you're a people's business. And if your people are not treating your customers right, your business doesn't work.
Culture stems from the top. So it's about leadership from ourselves. So myself at Lupino, I have an operational partner here, Richard. Richard's exceptional. Richard is here. He meets and greets customers. And that value and that personable approach that he actually runs is also very, very much conducive to the rest of the staff. The staff see his lead and they follow. So the industry now is also going to go back to that in more ways than ever. There's only a very few great business groups that actually have developed that culture and be able to extend it through their staff. These industries need more and more hands-on people. And that's the way their personalities have grown. That's the way the industry developed. I was listening to the radio this morning about JobKeeper. The Melbourne CBD has 6,500 businesses that have applied for JobKeeper. It's the second largest precinct of job seeker orientated businesses in the country. Sydney CBD is the first, and Melbourne CBD comes a second. So from a concentration perspective, Melbourne worked. We had immigration coming in, more and more people coming to the city. What we need to try and reinvigorate the city from a perspective of getting people back in. We need people back at work. We need people back at entertaining. We don't have a theatre open in the city. We don't have an event in the city. We don't even have a pipeline of events which we can look forward to. So at the moment, we are revitalising our business by actually marketing to our locals and our loyal customers who come in. So what's happening now is people are using this time to actually come in and use a restaurant as an event. 20 people, they've got a little bit more space, and they make the most of it, just like the boys down the back are doing at the moment. They use this as their opportunity to actually, enjoy themselves.
If you were on a committee to get the city back, what were the first three things you'd be doing or pushing for?
What we need to do is get more people into the city. How do we do it? We need to give people opportunities to come into the city. So I would say activities such as the comedy festival, we need to get things like that back happening as soon as possible. Events, programs. We need to understand that people at the moment feel, probably constrained in terms of coming into the city or coming to visit other people, given the health effects out there at the moment. What we need to do is we need to actually give people comfortable settings. So what do? We spread people out. There's a great big car park across the road. Do we set up events in car parks? So it needs us to think differently. The most important thing we need to understand, what was the regular model 3 months ago is not the model now, and it won't be the regular model in 3 months. We need to adapt to the circumstances. So that's one thing I would do. Number two is Victoria, we need to be able to proactively market the CBD as a great destination. As a destination from a cultural perspective, our great restaurants, need to promote them as an opportunity to bring people into the city, not only locally, but also from Australia. It's not international tourists anymore, it's about local and national tourists. We need to do that. What else we would do? Maybe we need to think a little bit differently from the perspective of how we deal with customers. Do we need to offer them different opportunities to spend money? Do we need to start thinking about ways of ferrying people into the city differently, giving them a much more safer feeling? So it's about being open-minded.
There's an idea about getting restaurateurs like yourselves to move away from paying rent to go to turnover rent, the government to subsidize any difference that the landlord would have as a shortfall, so that once restaurants open up, the pulse of the city comes back, the employment comes back, and it gives people an incentive to come back into the city. Would you subscribe to that sort of thinking?
Both from a landlord perspective and a tenant perspective, I think that would make a lot of business sense. Given the fact that at the moment, even though we've got JobKeeper on, 20 patrons doesn't really pay the bills. And I can assure you that we're actually losing money. When we get to 50, hopefully we'll be able to sort of have enough people coming in through different sittings and sort of trying to massage numbers and try to get enough people through. We'll probably be breaking even. How long that lasts for will also dictate our profitability. I think what the government needs to understand is that the social fabric of the Melbourne CBD revolves around the workers and revolves around the restaurant, dining scene and the entertainment precinct. The more assistance we can get from both perspectives, landlords and also tenants, it will mean that we will come back quicker. If they don't...
People want to be in the city.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At the moment now, people are constrained.
How long are you going to run a business at a loss for?
And that's one of the greatest concerns we have, is that there will come a time where people will say enough's enough. If places like Long Grain and Airsage, which have been around for 20 years and have great businesses, and decide that it's not worth to take that next risk and sort of roll the dice again, it shows you that we're all in this together. So talking about partnerships, it's not only landlords and tenants, it's also the government. The government has to understand that there's the greatest opportunity to get out of this is by promoting businesses. So for example, someone who actually comes out and spends their money, they pay GST. Out of the GST, some of it goes back to the government. And I think we need to understand is that the more people that are out there spending money, the quicker this recovery will happen. One of the other key things that we've also found is at the moment is that a number of staff who've actually been off work for say 6 or 8 weeks in between, a lot of them coming back have had apprehensions. Some of them have been quite scared about coming back. Other ones have come back and needed sort of some coaching back into work. So mental issues and mental sort of like issues are becoming to the forefront where people are actually quite concerned. So we, as employers, have to take on a much more stronger focus upon helping the transition of not only our customers, but actually our staff back to work. And that takes a lot of time. So what we're doing at our venues is also transitioning our staff back to what's happening. They've gone from being working 40 to 50 hours a week, being busy, being on the go, having the adrenaline rush, being quarantined into their homes, not having that social interaction, has really left a void in some of their lives. So now reintroducing them back to work has been quite strenuous on them. So mental health now is also a really preeminent thing on our agenda. So we're looking at sort of transitioning people back, giving them the opportunity of coming back slowly, but at the same time also migrating them into what we see as the new world. Salman, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity.